Hi there, Craig Hohenberger with Buji ActionCOACH, and I'm here with Porsche Chisley, one of our executive coaching clients. Hi, Porsche.
Hi, Craig. How are you?
Excellent, and good to see you again today.
You
So,
too.
if you don't mind, Porsche, just share a little bit about you, and because I think we were already working with your firm before you started with them, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. So
So
tell a little bit about you and just from your perspective, what the coaching program has been like, and what your experiences have been working with us.
yeah. It's been good. It's good. So I obviously work for Charter School Specialist, and so when I first started working for Charter School Specialist, I didn't come on a managerial role. I just came on as like a coordinator, and so my previous boss was already working with Buji Action Coaching, getting coaching on like management and all those things. So I thought that was a cool opportunity that she had. And then when I transitioned into her role, obviously the opportunity was presented to me. So I immediately, of course, got involved. This was actually my first management position. And so as you can imagine, I walked into quite a bit of just concerns and learning that management is certainly very different than just being a general worker, more concerned with just my assignments and my task. And so the Buji Action Coaching came along right on time for me.
Oh, fantastic. And from your perspective, because I don't know how much of the history you know, but when we first started working with charter schools, the owner was really leading the entire team and managing everybody, and there was no management structure at that stage. So from what you've experienced personally and what you may have heard from the folks that had already been working with our team in terms of raising up and building that leadership team, what's your experience with that impact on charter schools?
That's such a good point, Craig. So when I came in, honestly, I think during my interview, they had maybe just made the transition, because I remember them talking about it being a flat organization. And I honestly didn't really know what that meant at the time. Just like, oh, it's a flat organization, okay, whatever that means. Come to find out that it really means that there's not really a hierarchy, or everybody just reports to the same person, which I don't even know how you have the capacity to do that, especially when the way that the organization runs is very department heavy. So there are some people who only work in compliance. There's people who only work in school improvement. So I don't know how any one manager would be able to keep track of all of those different responsibilities. Yeah. So it was really nice to see that they transitioned out of that space, which I'm sure was ineffective, while they were doing it. So yeah, that's how it started, apparently. I'm so glad that that's not how it is now, because I don't know how you would manage that. I feel like it's a lot of pressure and stress just managing my single department. So.
Yeah. and so from your perspective, Porsche, how has our coaching helped you, especially being a new manager and a new leader, and having those responsibilities and having a team and a department to lead? How has that helped you perform those roles better and prepared you for the future in your career?
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So I'll say specifically for me, I came out of, good point. This was my first role having to manage. And so I came into the role, I'm already very goal-oriented and task-driven. And honestly prefer, if I have to choose, I'll prefer to work alone, because I like to be responsible solely for myself. And so Buji Action Coach, I think the best thing that it did for me was change my mindset around what it means to be a manager / leader versus what it means to be a worker, for lack of better word. Right. And so I think the biggest improvement I think I've made as a manager has been increasing my ability to delegate. And I never thought about that before or thought about my use of time. So if, you know, Dave obviously pays me to make sure that things get done in my department. It's not my job to be the person to do all of those things. And so, I don't know, I would say that the coaching has really made me take a look at what is it that absolutely has to be done by me, and what are some of those other tasks that I can oversee or I can, you know, check in on at the end of the project, but I don't necessarily have to be the one to do the physical work.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
And has that and how has it transitioned for you in terms of being a manager versus being a leader? Because there's obviously some differences there. Managers make sure the work gets done the right way and the right timing, et cetera. And leaders lead the team and inspire them to keep going after it every day and
Yeah.
invest their heart and their soul and their mind in their work, not just do tasks.
Yeah. So I will definitely say I'm still on a spectrum of trying to get further and further along to the leader. That's where I would hope to be. I'm still progressing in that area for sure, but I certainly think that I've learned that one of the biggest differences is like a leader is driving the, you know, the inspiration. They're holding the vision. They're making sure that the team understands the vision. And then management is really making sure that, okay, here's the vision. What do we have to do to reach the vision? How do I make sure that the what we have to do gets done?
Yep.
So we put a lot of things in place like standard operating procedures. I think your team has really helped kind of like cultivate that, which has been incredibly helpful in our organization, because now we have a system for what needs to be done on a consistent basis. When does it need to be done? And I have access to be checking to make sure that those things are getting completed without having to just like physically remember like, oh shoot, it's June. I think something's coming up. We just have a system for get those things done now.
Exactly. So, and from what you've seen with the other people on the leadership team, how has our coaching and our programs helped you guys communicate better together, work well as a team, drive more synergy, things like that? Has it been beneficial in those regards as well?
Yeah, I definitely think it's been beneficial in those regards. I will say that I think the organization as a whole has become a little bit more cohesive. And so I do feel like when I first started, everyone stayed in their box, right? Like compliance didn't really work too much with school improvement. School improvement didn't work too much with legal. Legal doesn't do much with fiscal. But I think working with your team has kind of got us thinking about, well, how all these pieces fit together? And how do we make sure that if the legal department is doing something really innovative and really cool and they have systems in place, then why aren't those same systems in place in the compliance department or in the school improvement department? So I think that we are a lot more cohesive now, specifically because we've been able to establish some of those procedures. And I think one of the biggest things that Buji Action Coaching did was help us coming up with performance reviews. Because those, I don't know that I was ever reviewed when I first started working there, like as an employee, but we get like bonuses sometimes based off of our performance. So there was a missing link between like you get a bonus and how you performed. And so now we have a document and a system for actually looking at, well, your bonus is tied to your performance, and not just your performance individually, our performance as a company and your department's performance overall. And I think that's huge because it takes out all of the, well, she got a bonus because, you know, the president's cool with that person. And she didn't get a bonus because, you know, they don't really like her. So it takes the subjectivity out of it. And I really appreciate that.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a very good point. Yeah. Being objective on those types of metrics is definitely very crucial, because now it's easy to understand exactly where you stand.
Yep.
Yeah. And how has our program benefited you personally beyond just being a better manager at work and being able to lead people more effectively?
Yeah, it's so interesting. So, and I don't know, this is probably like a crazy answer, but I think it's had me really look at what do I enjoy doing, right? Like being in a management role is always financially beneficial.
Yep.
So that's great. I certainly want to be more of than a manager. And I'll say one of the things that Buji does is you had us kind of identify, we took some tests that helped us identify like our skill sets and how we work. And I think over time, I've kind of noticed that I don't really enjoy having to tell other people how to manage their tasks. That's not something I enjoy doing. I don't really like people telling me how to manage my task. I like to know the vision and I like to know the goal that needs to be accomplished. And I like the flexibility and autonomy and freedom to get that done.
Right.
And so even when it comes to just my own personal career, I think I've kind of learned that, oh, management sucks. Like, it's great financially, but I certainly learned about myself personally that I'd much rather manage projects instead of managing people. So that's one of, I think that's been, and I don't know that that was like the desired outcome, but I think just going through the process and working with you all and a lot of the books that we read has kind of got me thinking about like, well, what is it that you do best? I can manage people, but I don't know that that's the best use of my time when I feel like I'm very creative and very innovative and I'm always thinking critically about how to make things better. I don't always feel like I have the time and space to do that when I'm managing other people's work.
Yeah, I totally hear you. I'm very much like you that way. I'm not as gifted at nor as interested in being the manager of the teams.
Yeah.
I'm much better at casting vision and driving certain innovations and those types of things, and get the right people around me that are really good at and really enjoy that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's kind of like a huge takeaway for me.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. That'll benefit you for the balance of your career.
Yeah.
Really line up in the right spots. How have you seen some of the other people on the team grow and develop as individuals and as a team?
Yeah, I would say as the management team, I certainly think we've grown closer. And just, so I'll give you an example. I think there would have been a time where we all just kind of reported separately to the president on like what's happening, what's important to us, and really just looking out for the benefit of ourselves and our own departments. Mm-hmm. But I think through the help of Buji Action Coach, it's kind of made us realize that like, hey, you are the team. Like the managers, you're the core team. And whatever you're deciding, that you think is best for the organization, you all should stick together and go to the president and present that information versus like one person having to always be the sacrificial lamb, so to speak, to, try to improve things and, initiate different things in the office. So I think that's been nice to see now that I sit and think about it. I do feel like it put us on the same page. Like we all feel like we're a team, and I don't know that was there before.
That's great. So from your perspective, it's helped you communicate not only with each other better and with your teams better that you're managing and leading, but even communicating up and managing up to the owner of the company on how to communicate with him and how to bring up suggestions that will benefit the company and things like that. It's helped you do that.
Certainly managing up, certainly. And I think it's one of the benefits of us working with Buji Action Coach and our owner also working with Buji Action Coach is we get different perspectives. So I might see some decisions being made from my perspective and from the management team's perspective as like, that was just like a dumb decision. Like, why are we doing this, right? Mm-hmm. But because the coaching takes place throughout the entire organization, you all are able to get a different perspective. So you're able to say like, well, actually that decision was made for the benefit financially of the company. Whereas I might not have been thinking about the financial benefit. I might have solely been thinking about like, my department's role in that. So it's been helpful to have the more of a bird's eye view at certain times than just the perspective that we get from our specific roles on the team.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. And do you believe that you think a little bit more like an owner who's looking at the entire organization versus maybe just looking at things from your own job slot perspective?
Yeah, this past year, I think that's been the goal, is to get all of us to start thinking from the perspective of an owner and not just the perspective of a manager. And it's crazy how that shifts your thinking, right? Like it puts you in a place where now you kind of understand those critical decisions that have to be made and how it can look different to the outside world on why decisions are being made the way that they are, but it really is to protect, and secure the company's future.
Right, which secures everybody's jobs.
Which secures everyone else's jobs, yeah.
Yep, exactly. And do you feel like from the time you joined the company several years back to today, that the executive team has been able to take on bigger responsibilities and become more autonomous so that the owner doesn't have to have his fingers in every little thing and making all the decisions ultimately?
Yeah, I definitely think we're at a good spot with that. I think there's still room to grow in that area for us, for sure. But I think it's, as an owner of a company, I think it's always hard to kind of transition what you've created and what you've built over to other people and kind of trusting that they're going to be able to get the job done. But I certainly have seen improvement in just allowing us to kind of say, hey, this is the direction we need to be going. These are our goals. This is how we think it's best to get there.
Right. And do you see him having more confidence today in you guys as a team in terms of making certain decisions versus maybe when you first started?
I do. Yeah, I definitely think he feels more confident. I think it's because one of our goals as managers was to really build our own capacity in whatever area we're leading. And so we are responsible for being the experts in our field. And because we're the experts, I think it's allowed him to kind of believe and kind of sit back a little bit and let us lead in that way versus like him having some uncertainty on whether or not like information is correct or if we really know, our field well enough to be able to make those sort of leadership decisions.
Yeah, fantastic. And how does that make you feel as a key employee, knowing that the owner is giving you more runway to run with things and has the confidence and trust that you're going to be able to handle it effectively?
Yeah, it definitely makes me feel, my personality makes me feel good because I'm all for us having shared goals and a shared vision, but sometimes it's very difficult with, when you're getting there a different way. So I think that I've been giving a lot more autonomy lately and just figuring out, well, here's the goal. How are you going to get there? Go for it.
Yeah, fantastic. Now as a key employee, as a management executive team member, et cetera, how valuable do you think it is having an owner that embraces, because there's not a lot of businesses where the owners truly embrace developing their team like Dave has done at charter schools? And how valuable do you think that is in terms of attracting very high caliber people like yourself to the team for the future?
I think that's critical. At every job, a lot of people, are going to be looking for opportunities to grow and opportunities to lead. And I will certainly say, I can't speak for, the other managers, but for myself, I was, at the company for maybe 3 years before, just 3 years. So for me to be able to, in 3 years' times, take on a position where at some point I could be offered like partial ownership of an organization, that almost never happens. So I think that one, it was about being at the right place at the right time, for just, being honest, for one.
Yep.
For two, always being willing to grow yourself. And, I've been very pleased with my coaching from Annette and from Buji, and I will certainly reach out to her when there's situations that I don't know how to handle, which has made me not have to go directly to the owner those questions. So I feel like I was positioned to be able to get the help that I needed without putting a burden on the owner for my own personal growth. So I think that really set me up for success in the organization, because, in my mind, like, I got all these fires going on, right?
Yep.
Owner doesn't know that I have all these fires going on. He sees someone confident, and, if there's issues that I have to bring up to him, I'm presenting them with the solution and not just going with the problem. And so I think that kind of calms the situation from an owner's perspective. And I don't know that I would always have access to that if it weren't for the coaching, because I would have to go to someone. And a lot of times people report directly to their manager, and the owner is my manager, but I don't want him knowing all my problems because he's trying to get me to be a leader.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it frees up his mental capacity to be able to focus on things that are bigger, even more strategic about the future of the company versus handling every little fire that you've got to juggle. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think that's so critical. I don't know how other organizations get it done if they don't have some sort of coach in place for those things. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything else you would like to share? Anything I should be asking about that you'd like to share about your experiences working with our Action Coach team and how it's helped you grow and help your company?
I think that the best thing really has been the focus on the individual and not just on the company. Because for me, like, I will be transitioning into something different within the next, 6 months or so. And so it's been nice to know that while I'm in my current position, I've had the support that I've needed to grow in that position. But beyond that specific position, there have been lessons that I can take with me anywhere. Like, you certainly need to be delegating. You can't do it all by yourself. You certainly need to be making sure that you're growing as an individual, whether that's in management or, project management, people management, whatever that is, that you're seeking, solutions, and you're seeking people to be able to help you along the way. So just overall, I think for me, I feel like I've grown in my capacity at this job, but I've also grown in my capacity as a leader for wherever I go next. And I appreciate that, because it's almost like, I'm sure people don't want to say it, but you pour money and you pour resources into the staff that you have, hoping that obviously they're there long term. But regardless of where they go, they're going to be a good resource and a good employee, regardless of whether or not they're with you, because of the coaching that they receive both professionally and personally. So.
Right. That's a really good point, because there are some people that don't want to invest in and help their teams grow, which doesn't help the company while they're there, and then you end up eventually potentially having to replace them anyway. So you might as well invest in your people. You're paying, like you said, a lot of money for that payroll and benefits and things like that. To get the biggest return possible from your team. So they can help the company a whole lot more. Yeah. So what's been the most difficult thing for you during this process? Because sometimes we've got to hold up the mirror loud and clear, and it's not always fun to look in the mirror sometimes. So what's been the most difficult thing that you've had to embrace that's helped you grow a ton?
Yeah. The most difficult thing I would say is having like very critical conversations with staff who are not quite meeting expectations. And it's so funny, because I'll tell you, like, everyone knows if there's an issue that you have with me, I can swallow a critical conversation and just move forward with it, right? But I struggle. initiating those difficult conversations when I need to be the one bringing it up to someone else. And so I definitely say Annette would never let me out of those.
You can't wuss out of those tough
Can't
conversations.
get
Huh?
out of them, even though I would prefer, I wouldn't consider myself to be like a non-confrontational person in general, but in management, I feel like I don't like confrontation, actually,
Okay.
which I've learned about myself over just the past few months, and having to kind of deal with some of the things that constantly come up. And ultimately you just get to a point where it's like, I'm not dealing with this anymore, we're going to talk about it. But I don't want, I'm trying to work more on not getting to that point, confronting it when it's an issue immediately versus letting it lag on for so long.
Excellent. Yeah. And so you've gained new skills in that area on how to have those crucial conversations, like you said.
Yeah.
Very
They
good.
are difficult, but you got to have them.
Yep. It's funny. They say business is really easy, but people are messy. And if you're going to have a growing business, there's going to be a lot more people, and
a lot more mess.
People, they bring a mess at times. Yep. So that's why you get paid the big bucks, being in the
dealing with people.
So, well, Portia, anything else that you'd like to share at all as we wrap up?
I don't think so. I mean, I thank you all for just investing your time and services into our organization and into, our personal and professional growth. I appreciate that. And I really do appreciate you all seeing the bigger picture and seeing, where there's times where maybe this is not your fit. It's a good opportunity, but do you really want to do this forever? And being able just to kind of have a thought partner in that has been incredibly beneficial for me. So I'm just appreciative of the opportunity to work with you.
Fantastic. You've been a fantastic client to work with as well. So what advice would you give? One last question. What advice would you give to a business owner or a key executive who's thinking about investing in executive coaching for his or her team in terms of like what we do with charter schools?
I honestly can't imagine a thriving business without executive coaching, some sort of platform or some sort of resource that they're using for that, because people are always learning and growing. You don't want to get to a point in your organization where you're not building leaders. Even if they're not in a management position, they should be able to lead, understand the vision, and lead that vision and all of the assignments and tasks that you give them. So I think that it's worth the investment if you're serious about growing your business. If you're not, then okay, just go on with what you're doing. But if you want people to stay, you want happy people, you want to grow as an organization, then we all need coaches. I mean, like LeBron is LeBron, but he still has a coach, right? So I think that is just critical to make sure that there's a someone who can help lead the vision, and it's not always put on just the managers and leaders of the organization.
Yep. Fantastic. I couldn't have summed it up better myself. Portia, thank you so much.
Thanks, Craig.